All right, this is the first ever podcast on site at the Atlanta Braves Stadium. What is the stadium called?
Truist Park.
Truist Park. Okay, here we go. And action. All right. All right, Cliff. Hey,
Hi, Nathan.
good to meet you in
Nice
person
Nice
finally.
to finally make it happen, man.
Let's make this happen. This is a podcast. I don't know if you meant to be doing a podcast here, but we're gonna do it.
We're here.
You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So, hey, welcome everybody to another edition of the Chaney podcast, where we talk with folks that have an interesting perspective and personal story, professional stories all throughout the supply chain. And today we are specifically talking with Cliff Hardesty from Hardesty Technologies.
That's right.
And we're here outside of Truist Stadium here in Atlanta. We're going to be walking into the Atlanta Braves game here shortly.
Yeah.
Before we do that, let's learn a little bit more about Cliff. So, let's start kind of like at the start, like where are you from? Kind of what's your family story?
Yeah. So, from Northeast Georgia, 60 minutes northeast of Atlanta, kind of close to Athens, born and raised there. Went to school in Athens, then went to a college in North Georgia, where I studied, marketing. I knew that would be my role when I joined, Barcode Depot at the time. And so yeah, recently just rebranded to Hardesty Technologies, but yeah, Georgia boy, happy to be here at Truist Park to cheer on the Bravos. So happy to be here.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more. What kind of kid were you growing up? What'd you keep yourself busy with?
Well, we grew up on 22 acres.
Okay.
So, we had dogs and we were always outside playing in the creek, so I'm 31, was born in 95. So I kind of grew up before the internet,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I still had a pretty fun childhood, just kind of growing up in the country pretty much,
Right.
so busy traveling a lot. Dad, he started the company back in 96. And so
Okay.
we would always, travel with him to different shows or go visit customers or whatever. So it was a lot of fun. I was actually homeschooled until the 6th grade. And so that was, fun, and so yeah, I had a pretty fun childhood.
So since this is a family business kind of
Right.
story,
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, we might need to go back a generation. What kind of things was your dad doing before he started Barcode Depot?
It was an old company called LXC back in the 80s. And so anybody in our industry, some of the older people will know LXC.
Okay.
I know that doesn't mean anything to anybody here, but
Yeah.
they were acquired by Intermec, which was acquired by Honeywell. So technically a Honeywell,
Okay.
So he was there. He was like their second field service rep back in the day. So he would actually be like installing like networks and things like that. And then he
Okay.
worked for another company called Markham, which would sell this laser that would etch like a barcode onto like any type of like the wrappers that a cigar's in.
Mhm.
It would like put a barcode into that. So that was very like niche thing, but it was kind of cool. He had this like a big laser at his home office, and we could put like a toy or something in there, and it would etch like our name or etch a little name or whatever. It was like that. We thought that was kind of cool as a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just realized, he's like, look, I could be saving my customers a lot of money by like doing repairs and stuff myself, like on these types of equipment. And so it literally Barcode Depot literally started by just selling a scanner cable. That was the first thing he ever sold. Started building trust with customers, started doing repairs and stuff, and one thing led to another, and here we are 30 years later. So
Right. Right. So that was it. What about did you kind of pick up any of the entrepreneur businessman sort of, inspiration from your dad? Oh,
right.
thank you, sir.
Just
All right.
in time.
That's good. All right.
Cheers.
Yep.
All right.
Got some margaritas here. Let's go.
And a good one at that.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So entrepreneur spirit. It's funny because me and Dad always talked about like how he was the entrepreneur, I was the intrapreneur.
Okay.
And so what he did in the mid 90s, he had a comfortable sales job. He was making good money. He didn't have to go start this, company, right? And he thought, if I'm ever going to have, true financial freedom, I need to take a risk.
Okay.
And as I get older, I really admire that, right? Because I don't know if I'd have had the guts to do that. And he did. It worked. And, he built a company to a certain point. And then I came in and showed him all this new stuff. And I'm like, hey, we can be doing this, this, and this. Like, our customers love us. Let's get the word out there, right? And so I came in 2019 and really kind of just transformed the marketing and the branding and all that stuff, right? So.
And was that after degree and all wrapped up, or?
Yeah. So I graduated college in 19, and so pretty much started full time with them at the end of, like, I guess middle of 19 or so. Now it's hard to believe it's almost been 7 years. It's kind of crazy. Before COVID just feels so far
Right,
ago,
right.
but yeah, I mean, you could kind of say I was born into it, I mean, it was kind of just destined,
Hmm.
for it to be this way. But, it started at the bottom, it was kind of a cliche, to say, but, started just, repairing equipment. I mean, I've done everything to take out the trash, clean toilets. I mean, I've done everything, and so
Right.
now to be the president, it feels nice that I worked for it. It just wasn't handed to me or anything like that.
Mhm.
My dad was a person that was very strict and wasn't going to hand you anything. You had to work for it.
Yeah.
And I didn't appreciate that at the time, but now, you appreciate that, right? So
I think that you're known for admiring golf and whatnot. Did that start at an early age, or like were you a late bloomer? Or
yeah, so my grandpa has always been a big golfer or whatever,
okay,
and for whatever reason, that never correlated to my dad.
okay.
But
Did it skip a
but hey,
generation
kind of
then?
skipped a generation a little bit for whatever reason. But no, I credit my dad for getting me into golf.
Okay.
He was never like a big golfer. Like he'll golf with me and my brother or something, but he's just not going to go out and golf, by himself or anything. So, but he got me introduced to it when I was probably 14 or 15. So, not 5 or 6 when maybe if I could have practiced and maybe,
Yeah,
made
we
something out
would
of
have
it.
been having a whole different kind of
Yeah, I
conversation right
know,
now,
I
mate.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, he got me into it, and I just fell in love with the game. Just everything about it, I just love.
Right.
So, I being in this business is being able to travel a lot and meeting like-minded partners that like to golf or whatever. Like it lends itself to playing a lot of golf.
Right, right.
So,
I've always been thankful. I've played golf all through high school,
hmm
and I kind of taught myself when I was about 10 or
oh
so
right,
out in
nice,
the field.
yeah,
And I've been thankful entering into the business world of having that, because kind of golf is the official sport of business, kind
yeah, it
of.
is, it is,
Um, and I think a big part of that is the networking and the connections that you make.
yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about where do you go to connect, and how do you stay networked and connected, and kind of growing your business?
Yeah. So, well, virtually, obviously, on LinkedIn, right? I
Right,
mean, you got
right.
to be on LinkedIn nowadays. And that was something I did back in like 2020, 2021. I really like focused on, building my network and stuff. Um, but like in person events and stuff, I'll come, industry events like this at Modex, um, any type of local, industry event. I know like a customer is going to be there or a partner or whatever, right? Like, I think the Georgia, like what is it called? This is a logistics summit coming up this Friday that I
Okay.
might go to. So it's down in Savannah, but it's an excuse to get down to Savannah. So I'm always looking for like local, like supply chain logistics type events to kind of just get the name out there, tell people who we are, we're local and, so
Right,
yeah.
right.
So
Do I recall that you mentioned that you did work somewhere else,
yeah,
like before you kind of joined the business? That
yeah.
you've got some outside experience. Let's talk through that a little bit.
Well, yeah, it depends on how far back you want to go.
Uh-huh.
My first job was actually at a golf course, believe it or not, right?
Makes a lot of
So,
sense. Yeah.
so I was a cart guy there. It's actually where I met my wife. She was a
Okay.
cart girl, and so it's just this golf love story, whatever.
That's
But
great.
so yeah, I was a cart guy there, and then I worked at another golf course, and then I worked for my dad because he owns a retreat center close to the office. It's a Catholic retreat center where people, different like Catholic groups will come up, and it's just a retreat,
Uh-huh.
right?
Right,
There's some
right.
land out there and stuff, and so I did a lot of landscaping and stuff for him because there's like 60 something acres out there. So that was always a lot of fun.
Hmm.
It was pretty laid back. And then I worked for a company called AECom.
Hmm.
We had a contract with the state of Georgia where we helped like stranded motorists and stuff. So that was kind of something completely different, just kind of like a job to get you through college type deal. And then from there, once I got my degree, my dad was like, look, you're going to have to get a degree. Once you get a degree, you'll have a spot open here
Okay.
at then Barcode Depot. And so that's what I did. And so, yeah, I want to say I started as like the marketing director at Barcode Depot. And that's when I helped, with the branding and the website and all that stuff. And then
Yeah.
from there, just kind of, leveled my way up to president.
Yeah.
So,
How
yeah.
long have you been noodling and kind of strategically thinking about this name change and kind of rebrand?
It's probably been the last couple of years,
Okay.
honestly. I mean, a lot of the main players in our industry were getting away from the barcoding name. And, I always thought that made a lot of sense. And I always knew that we would rebrand to something different. I didn't know what it was going to be. The reason I picked Hardesty was just to kind of pay homage to the family name and
Right.
like to dad founding the company. And, we were trying to think like Hardesty systems, Hardesty solutions, Hardesty technology we were trying to find a right name, and we just landed on Hardesty Technologies. We just felt like it rolled off the tongue. It's pretty simple. It's broad enough to where you can do a lot of different things. Now we're like in robotics and, AI is just, this buzzword. I mean, we do a little bit of AI here and there, we're trying to get more into like the emerging technology space, and you really can't do that with a name like Barcode Depot, right? It kind of
Right.
puts you in this silo of just knowing for certain things, right? So, yeah, it was a strategic, move. I thought we executed it pretty well. I,
Anything you would have done differently? It's always a
you know,
little room
I,
for improvement, I suppose.
yeah, not, not really anything
No?
right now. Nothing. I mean, maybe so. Our legal name was always BCD Industries, DBA
Uh-huh.
Barcode Depot, and the really only thing we changed was the DBA. So we're still BCD Industries,
Okay.
DBA Hardesty Technologies. We did that so we wouldn't have to get set up as a vendor again in our customer systems and stuff.
Okay.
But still, it's inevitable. You tell them like, "Oh, we're Hardesty Technologies now," and they're like, "Oh, well, we got to see W-9 and all." So it's like
Okay.
whatever. So maybe we should have just changed it completely to just Hardesty Tech.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But other than that, the feedback has been great. Honestly, it's just been overwhelmingly positive. People really like understand why we did it. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's been great. So
I see. I see. Let's talk a little bit about just kind of the transition, I guess. Family business. The college I went to after graduating, they actually started a family business degree program,
oh wow,
literally
that's
just for
cool.
this kind of thing, right?
Wow,
Because they were like just saying that it's a unique
yeah,
thing,
it is.
and you got the stresses of being working together and being family and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Any like good stories you could share of like just kind of, I don't know, any drama, or were y'all all perfect of being
Well,
family, being business, kind of just
yeah.
tying it all together?
Well, luckily we had a respect there between, my dad and I. A lot of
Uh-huh.
people I talk to, they're like, I could have never done it. Like, good for you. Or a lot of people just don't even want to or even care to take over their family's company. There
Right.
was a lot of people in our industry where like the founders, like my dad's age, started in the 90s, early 2000s, and their kid wanted nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know. I just kind of saw the way we grew up and, the vacations we took. And like, I didn't realize how good we had it until I got a little older,
Right.
and realized not everybody lived that way. We're very blessed, to be in that position. And I was like, look, I want this for my family. Like, I'm going to, take over this company and take it to new heights. So I've always been like ambitious in that way, but, you know, nothing like too crazy family drama. Like I got
Okay.
a brother and sister. Everybody's like, they didn't want nothing to do with the company or
Yeah.
anything. And they really didn't. Like I was really the only one that showed interest in it. And so I think dad was excited to kind of like pass the baton down, so,
Sure.
but yeah, nothing, too crazy I can share on camera or anything. No, no, but, no, it was good. Honestly, it was a good, we had a good succession plan and
Hmm.
yeah, we just, I think the biggest thing is like to have a plan and have everything written down and making sure there's no misunderstandings. Right. So I would, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So.
Let's talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of the business. Whenever we kind of try to break into this, the business part of the chat here. First thing is who is your ideal customer, and what are you trying to serve them with?
Yeah, so I would say our ideal customer, people that we're normally talking to, is like a director of IT, some type of warehouse operations. Sometimes it could be a COO, it could be a um, warehouse operations manager. Anybody in operations or IT in the
What
warehouse
kind of
or.
industries, or what kind of
But
operators?
we work with
Yeah.
a lot of, like a lot of 3PLs,
Okay.
big and small 3PLs. Any really any company with a warehouse, honestly, or distribution, or big in manufacturing, a lot in like food and bev manufacturing for whatever reason. That's just how it kind of came about.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if it's a manufacturing plant, warehouse, distribution center, that's
Yeah.
that's a potential customer for us,
Okay.
right? So.
And then what are you trying to help them with?
Yeah, so I would say the ecosystem of the hardware, software, and the connectivity around
Okay.
that is kind of our core, right? So you have the RF hardware, everybody knows your barcode scanners, your tablets, barcode scanners, things like that. But you also have the connectivity piece. So how are they actually, talking to their systems, right? Is that their Wi-Fi? Is that they're like a private, LTE? Is it 5G? Whatever it might be, right? And so we actually installed some Starlink antennas at a facility up in the Midwest not too long ago. So that was something a little new for us, but um, we're excited to get into it, right? A lot of people are looking for resiliency and redundancy, and so that's kind of the connectivity piece. The software piece, we'll have different software partners. As you know, Snap Fulfill, we work with them. Another company called Bullseye Computing. Shout out to Jeremy and John. They'll be here tonight. So they're like an inventory control software. So we'll work with them when a customer doesn't need like a full on like WMS,
Okay.
right? So yeah, we'll use different software partners when a software opportunity comes available. So but there's a lot of different other like solutions that we've gotten into just by talking to our customers more and understanding their problems, like asset management lockers, right? And, I think you were in warehousing for a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody has like their mobile computer or their scanner that for whatever reason they just have to have. They love it, they know it works,
Yeah.
and they'll go hide it in their locker or whatever it is. And the warehouse manager hates that, right? Because there's just no accountability if these devices get damaged. So the asset management lockers are great for that, right? You check in, you check out your device for the shift, and the manager knows who has that device in case it gets damaged. There's accountability there, right? Because these devices are not cheap, right? A lot of people don't realize that, so but yeah, there's a lot of like cool solutions that we have picked up and partnerships we've made by just talking to our customers more and like truly understanding what their needs are. And like at the end of the day, we're just problem solvers, right? So yeah, that's what I really enjoy, is just like talking to customers and understanding what their needs are and how we can help. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
Got a question for you. Um, I talk to a lot of founders, a lot of startups that are making supply chain warehouse tech,
Hmm.
whether it's software, hardware, somewhere combination in the middle. And this concept of partnerships is like a really strong way for them to go to market.
Hmm.
And when I think about that, I think about folks like you that are actively talking to customers, helping them to solve their problems. And then you kind of bring this portfolio, right, of options and
Yeah.
solutions. Um, are you kind of like tapping into just the proliferation of all the different tech and options that are coming to market, and like trying to keep yourself on top of it and be a voice for them and see if you can bring them in as a vendor for yourself? Like,
Yeah.
how do you approach that?
A lot of the partners that we'll like eventually end up partnering with are introduced to us from somebody, right? Like they'll know, like, hey, I've heard like you're looking for like vision systems, or you're interested in this or that or whatever, and they're like, let me introduce you to so and so, and so we'll have a conversation with them, and we really like vet our partners too, because we understand we're going to be introducing them to our customers and stuff, right? So there has to be that trust there, and so we just don't partner with everybody, right? And like
Okay.
we want to make sure it's a good fit and our values align and our ethics align, right?
Okay.
Because I like to think we're a pretty ethical company, right? And we just don't want to work with anybody that, you know, just gives us a icky feeling. I know that sounds
Mm-hmm.
kind of weird, but but yeah, I mean, a lot of the partners we've been working with, been years and years in the making. And some of these newer ones, like warehouse or not warehouse, software companies, um, or even like these emerging technology companies are relatively new and probably in the last 2 years
Mm-hmm.
or so. But yeah, I'm always like, if there's a new technology that I'm excited about, maybe I'll go pursue somebody. If I've seen something on LinkedIn, I might reach out to them and, set up a discovery call to learn more about what their solution is. And
Yeah.
you see if there's, because we want the partnership to be mutually beneficial, right? I mean, there
Right.
can't just be a one-way partnership, right? So that's why, we want to make sure it's a good fit, with the partners we're working with, because we do have a pretty expansive network of partners,
Yeah.
that we trust, for certain solutions that make sense.
I'm curious, we were just talking about how there's a proliferation of lots of new tech, like the barrier to entry
Hmm.
to building a new platform or new visibility tool, or something, pretty low. Um, Kind of taking that concept of start, stop, continue. What are people stopping? Like what vendors or partners that you've had in the past, that technologies that people seem to be phasing out. Um, and kind of, clearly RF scanners and stuff is still out there, even though that technology's been
It's been
around for a good while.
right.
But is there anything like falling off? Like, that you're talking to folks that are saying like, hey, we've had these things in the back of the shop for a while.
Yeah.
We're done with them. Like, you just take them off our hands.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what technology is on its way out?
Well, yeah, I mean, like barcoding in general, is, hit its maturity a while ago.
Mhm.
I mean, everybody has well, I say everybody has barcoding, not everybody. I mean, people are still using pen and paper. Like I've always seen some pretty chaotic warehouses. So a lot of times we'll go in and actually help them set up some type of inventory control system, implement barcoding and stuff. Another thing, RFID has been around forever, right? I mean, since the early 2000s, right? And so that's really hitting its maturity the last few years. Tags are becoming a lot cheaper, so people are implementing that more and more.
Okay.
I'm trying to think where how like different technologies that are being phased out. I mean, obviously everything's going towards the cloud, right? I mean, I don't know anything that's really like
Mhm.
on prem now.
Right. Right.
People still have to use these mobile computers, barcode scanners. I mean, that'll be around for a while until they'll probably be replaced by vision systems. Honestly,
Mhm.
that's while we're partnering with different companies like an Arvist, right? I see those guys as the future, right? Like so those are different technologies that are kind of on the forefront that'll probably be replacing barcoding in the next 5 or 10 years if I had to guess. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe let's continue on that thread there of what do you see people, your operators, your customers asking for and implementing and wanting more? Like where's the demand
Yeah.
right now? Yeah.
Well, I mean, everybody wants to gain an edge in AI, right? I
Okay.
mean, that's a huge, buzzword, but how do you actually bring value with AI, right? I mean, we're not really doing anything, too much with AI just right now. But I mean, that's something I always hear about, right? How can we do this? How can we do that with AI? Whatever. But like, like again, RFID is something people are starting to invest in. Um, there's a lot of technologies out there people are not even like aware of, like BLE, like asset tags,
Mhm.
right? Like we're talking to some customers about that right now, where you don't need the infrastructure of RFID. It's basically just like an Apple AirTag. It just uses Bluetooth signal to triangulate where it's at. So that's a really like low barrier to entry way to like track different assets and stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm really bullish on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that AI word in there. I'm curious,
I think a lot of it's BS, to be honest with you.
yeah?
Nathan with the AI stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, everybody's, I don't know. It's AI this, AI that, but it's like, is it truly AI? A lot of it
Right.
seems like this advanced like analytics or
A decision tree in the background somewhere. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and we're a very like no like BS company. Like,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like
I can respect that.
yeah, it's just I don't know. Everybody like feels like they're gonna get left up behind if they don't have like their certain AI product or whatever. And we use it internally, like ChatGPT or something like everybody does now,
Right.
But I don't know. I'm excited, to see some different, like AI technologies here at Modex, and we'll see what's good, what's not. I feel like with AI, we're kind of like what the internet was back in like the early 2000 or excuse me, early 90s.
Mhm.
I don't think it's really hit its maturity yet, but it's going to be adopted a lot sooner than the internet was.
Right. Yeah,
So
well, just kind of the adoption curve of technology these days is just up and to the right.
yeah,
Hockey stick. I think I heard something the other day that like ChatGPT was the most fastest adopted thing. It was like it had
to 100 million.
150, 200 million,
Yeah,
users within the
yeah,
first few months, couple
yeah.
months,
It was
right, of it
insane.
existing.
Yeah,
So it's just like that viral, like things that go viral and needing to move quickly.
yeah.
Um, but at the same time, you're talking to organizations and warehouses and operations that have been in operating for decades,
Right. Yeah.
or more.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
you could count in centuries.
Yeah.
That yeah, it's a big ship. You can't turn it
Yeah.
just because there's a new fad coming
Right.
along.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you kind of like try to straddle that line between taking care of people's what they got going on today,
Hmm.
maybe servicing, keeping things running that
Hmm.
they've been using for a while, and then introducing new concepts and new technology.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of like a classic story, I guess, with us is like, well, as we're growing, is we're just trying to get deeper and wider to into some of these larger accounts that we're already working with, is they might just know us for, warehouse labeling or whatever it might be. Right. And we'll, we try to set up some meetings with them. And, that was kind of the whole part of rebranding to Hardesty Technologies was to be able to sit at the table with some of these, executives to have these conversations around whether, whatever it might be, whatever new technology that we think could, help them. Right. So, it's just getting the right audience, right, and presenting the right partners at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So and really a lot of times, our customers are very open to that once we are able to get those, meetings with them, because
Gotcha. Yeah.
we have customers all across the country. So there's a lot of planning that goes involved, with, setting up, those meetings and stuff. So, because we're from customers in Southern California all the way up to the East Coast. Um, so yeah, it's a lot that goes into that,
Okay.
but yeah.
So
So,
you have a front row seat to a lot of the technology and the services and the hardware. Um, and there's a lot of the folks that are building that technology listening right now. So what are some like words of advice, from because you all are right there sitting next to your customers, their business in and out. For advice for folks that are trying to go out and solve problems, how should they do that in a way that kind of like ensures that they're successful of
mhm,
bringing that product or that service to market?
yeah.
Any words of wisdom for those founders out there?
Found like in the warehousing space that
Hmm.
are, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
If they're in the warehouse, I don't think people understand like how valuable like a partner, a company like ours can be until they've like made the mistakes and like learned the hard way,
Okay.
because there's a lot of different like configurations of these devices and stuff, and make sure you have the right, type of keyboard, the right form factor. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it to make sure you're not, overspending or even underspending. And, a lot of people just cheap out and get something on Amazon, which, I mean, it's not, the equipment we're selling is for the enterprise,
Uh-huh.
right? I mean, I get it. If you, can't afford the Zebras and the Honeywells of the world and you want to go like a cheaper route,
Hmm.
that's fine, but it's not going to last you, very long. I mean, you're not going to get any service on that. You're not going to have the right MDM, which is a mobile device management, to actually manage those devices. So I think there's a lot of value in like what we can provide and just the knowledge we have, and being able to offer best practices and what we've seen, right?
Right.
So I think I don't know. I think a lot of founders out there, think they have to do it all themselves, right? And so, yeah, I would just say no. I think we can be a valuable partner to founders that are looking for some new technology to adopt. I mean, at the end of the day, we just want to help our customers. We're not a very like pushy, salesy organization, because at the end of the day, we want to like what's best for the customer, right? Like we want to sell them the right solution, right? Like, and that's just the way we are,
Hmm.
right? And I think ultimately people appreciate that, and they'll ultimately come back and want to work with you.
I see. I
So
see. What have we not talked about here yet today that's, that you're passionate about, that you want to make sure that we leave folks that are listening to this episode with?
yeah, I mean, I'm just really excited for the growth of just Hardesty Technologies, and I really feel like we're positioned in a good spot to, you know, my goal was always to 10x the company.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I
just
don't
putting the
know. I
right.
think you could be a little more ambitious, Cliff.
I don't know. I'll say no to nothing. If we got 100 exit, that's great. But let's start at 10 first. But yeah, it's just putting the right people in place. Honestly, I've been very lucky with the people that we have on our team, and I love just showing up to work every day and just working with people that have a shared passion for problem solving and helping customers. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. In customer service, I think like customer service is a lost art form,
Sure. Sure.
and fast response times, and it's the golden rule. It's treat others the way you want to be treated. And that might be a very simple, principle, but it goes a long ways. It's just one
Sure.
of those, that's why it's called the golden rule. Right. But,
Yep.
um, but yeah, I'm just, just passionate about, the company and growing it. And I see its potential, and, just excited for the next chapter.
All right.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
All
So
right. Put it in the hole.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Nathan.
Good to hang out with you, Cliff.
Yes, sir. Enjoyed it. Thank you for the time.
Yeah.
Awesome.